All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Here's Johnny.
Vanity. Definitely my favorite sin.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
The power of Christ compels you.
This is my boomstick.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Good evening and welcome to Shiver, a horror movie podcast. We are your hosts.
I'm Daniel DeBana.
And I'm David Ulloa, and we're here to talk about the incredible, the amazing, the one and only Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2.
Part 2. They made another one after this too, believe it or not.
They made a couple after this.
There's more, but we're just jumping straight to 2.
Well, here's the beautiful thing about Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 is you don't have to have seen Part 1.
Correct.
And truthfully, I mean, that is kind of true of a lot of the slashers in the 80s of like the big series, you know? Like, do you really have to have seen Friday the 13th Part 2 to understand Part 3? I don't think so.
True enough.
You know? So they kind of do a really good job of that. Now you had never seen this one.
I had never seen, like, this is one of those movies. I knew that a slasher film named Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 or Silent Night, Deadly Night existed. You know, we always go back to the days of Blockbuster and VHS art. I knew that there was a movie about a guy in a Santa suit that was a slasher called Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. I didn't realize there were multiple sequels, or Silent Night, Deadly Night. I didn't realize there were multiple sequels. And yes, I'd never seen any of them before I popped this on Monday night.
I feel like that's kind of the way that this movie is. I think a lot of people know about it, particularly because the original got so much pushback from the parent groups and from the conservative and the Christian groups back in the early 80s. So a lot of people are aware of it. But I don't know that a lot of people understand that, like, even the garbage day meme comes from this movie. You know, it's the garbage day meme.
I was fortunate in the fact that I got to watch this movie with a packed house. Which I don't know. We were visiting.
It is
family,
the way to watch it.
And so I watched this with my mom and dad and my brother and my sister-in-law. And it starts, and as soon as you see Ricky, my brother's like, "Oh my God, it's the Garbage Day guy!" And I was like, "Dude, this is the Garbage Day movie."
Oh yeah, and garbage it is. But
yeah,
in my opinion, it's a very particular kind of garbage. There's movies that are. We've all heard this term before, the so bad it's good movie,
right?
Where it sucks so hard that it kind of does this like 180 and it comes right back around to just like great, and you're sitting there and you're laughing with it, but you're also laughing at it, and you're enjoying it for what it is, and you're enjoying it for what it isn't, and you're enjoying it for all sorts of reasons, whether you're sober or you're not sober, whatever height and state you're in.
Go with not. That's what I did.
There you go. There's an enjoyment to be had there for people who do like those kinds of movies. If you're the kind of person who does not like so bad it's good movies, this is not for you.
No, it's there's a lot to unpack here, oddly, in a much different way than you know, we spent 2 weeks unpacking Ari Aster movies, right? Like there's a lot here. So this is my first time seeing it, And so if you have never seen this, I'll go ahead and let you know it's about 84 minutes long. And the first 40 minutes is extended flashbacks that are literally just the first movie, Silent Night, Deadly Night. That's why even like you were saying, do you need to see the one before to catch these slashers? You don't need to see this because they give you what I can only assume is all the good parts of the first Silent Night.
Pretty much, yeah. Now, this is actually kind of something where if you watched a lot of 80s slashers and not just the big famous ones, right? A big issue that these movies had were when there was no violence and no blood on the screen, and no sex on the screen. It was really boring.
Right. Yeah.
So when you get a movie like April Fool's Day, or you get a movie like The Slayer, or you get a movie like Happy Birthday to Me that actually is interesting when you're watching it, like that's cool. Silent Night, Deadly Night is not like that. The original, it's like it tries to be an honest to goodness slasher, and they tried to do something interesting by continuing with that holiday theme, right? There's Alice, Sweet Alice. There's obviously Halloween. There's Black Christmas. There's April Fool's Day. So this is capitalizing on that sort of holiday killer thing. And so when the first movie does well, and primarily just because of the controversy around it, right? The studio says, hey, we're going to do a second one, but you got like no budget.
Yeah. And I mean, so like I said, it's about 80 minutes and it's 40 minutes of mostly flashback and occasionally Ricky having some interaction with his psychiatrist or whatever in the asylum, hospital that he's in. And interaction is putting it lightly. It's usually just him calling the guy a cocksucker and then that's about it. It's so weird, man. It was so weird. Like, I mean, and I wasn't sure at first. Like, I'm watching it and I was like, all right, as long as this has got to just, so I look it up and I was like, yeah, these are just scenes from the first one. Long, in fact, that when you watch the credits, they essentially have to credit the cast of the entire first movie in the credits of this one because half of the movie is just the first one. It's a bold move, Cotton.
Let's see how it turns out.
Yeah. So, but like I said, I did have the pleasure of watching this with my love for horror movies, both bad and good, does come from my mom, and so getting around and getting to watch this with a group that knew exactly what we were in for, and kind of giving it the Mystery Science Theater 3000. That did add to it. So I've got to say, for what this movie presented, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about this too. And anyone I've ever watched it with kind of feels the same way. By the time the movie's over, we've laughed so much that like there's no way you can walk away from this and say I didn't enjoy this movie.
Yeah. It was over, like as the credits like roll, my dad is just laughing hysterically, just going, that was terrible, but he's laughing hysterically while he's doing it. So there was some enjoyment there.
Absolutely.
So how many times have you seen this movie? Like you say this is a Christmas watch for you, your overview of it, but I mean, like, how many times do you think you've seen this movie? That's what I want to know.
Probably about 10 times, 10 or 11 times. Yeah, I watch it every Christmas, and I know I've seen it at least as long as I've been a father, because I know that as long as I've had my son, I have to wait for him to go to bed to watch it.
Yes.
And I know that I saw it before I had my son as well. So I'm going to say probably 10 times. 10
okay.
Times.
Fair enough. So in those 10 times, like I said, we've been, we've explored the idea of the fact that they just kind of rehashed this. But when you boil this movie down to it, what you've got is a guy with a lot of trauma, and and how that plays out in his life, but just like, and it's so bizarre. It's got such a cult following. I've learned about since I've been reading about it for the past couple days. But like, is there anything of value here to you plot wise? Like when you look at the plot of this movie and just kind of the story. And if you were the audio listener, these are air quotes. Yes, very hard quotes. Capital S story that's presented here to us. What do you think about that?
So I remember the first time I watched this, like halfway through the movie, I was like, why the fuck is Ricky in an insane asylum?
Right.
Like that is, I think, like an honest to goodness mystery. Like, why is this like, what was it, like the 13th therapist that's come to see him?
Yes. And apparently he's just burning through therapists.
Yeah, and there's some sort of disconnect there, and I was interested in that. I'm like, okay, well, what is the actual reason why? And so when you do come to find out that he's almost like a bull, right, where that color red just enrages him, right? Any mention of Santa Claus enrages him, and much like his brother Billy, he the sister, what was her name, the nun, the mother superior,
the mother superior,
she is it is just Mother Superior, okay. She has brainwashed him too, this idea of naughty, you're being naughty and you must be punished. That is that's something that's ingrained in him as much as it was ingrained in Billy. So that right. To me was pretty cool. I like that. I do like that there was to me there seemed like, unlike the original film, it seemed like there was more of an attempt for Ricky to be a normal person.
Yes.
To live a normal life. Until he goes all King Kong, as the guy says, right? I think that story-wise, there's not much, but there's enough. There's enough to get you to the next instance where Ricky's going to be crazy. And for me, where most slashers, the main draw is the kills, I really truly love watching the absolutely like nonsensical acting that's going on here.
It's so ridiculous, and I know we're gonna get to that, but man, this was it's interesting to me, this idea of retelling the first story, right? But like through Ricky's eyes, which a lot of times doesn't really make any sense, because when the movie starts, Ricky is a baby, and like baby, which I mean, just the 70s, the wild time that they were, no car seat, right? Just riding in mom's lap in the front. But he's like recapping this, and they just keep going, oh well, Billy told me all of this, so now I can perfectly recount it to you and stuff like that. Like,
which, by the way, if you go and you rewatch the original, you don't hear the screams of the baby. There's
right.
They have done a pretty good job of like oh my god, what's this movie, the Tom Hanks one, Forrest Gump. Yeah, they did a pretty good job of Forrest Gumping.
Yes.
And like inserting him into scenes. The editing is actually like not bad,
right?
If you consider what it is. Wow, I had a brain fart on Forrest Gump.
Yeah, and remember Forrest.
Yeah, like one of the greatest movies of all time.
But so the story here, the first half just being him trying to explain the way he is by recapping the first movie. And like I said, I can only assume that this is really just like the ultimate highlight reel of the first movie, because pretty much everything I saw from the first movie was pretty cool, right? Like it did a good job of telling a very condensed story. I saw some great kills in there. But yeah, then it's just like he gets out, and it's like, and there's not other than the fact that it's, he's obviously just criminally insane because of his childhood trauma. they never they never try to be like, well, here's why he is the way he is. They're just like, yeah, like Santa killed his mom in front of him, and then his brother became Santa and killed people, so that's gonna mess anybody up. But it's just like there's so many weird things here, and like I said, you're really approaching this as two different stories, like the story of Billy, but that Ricky experienced, being like Ricky was there like when his brother was beaten just for like leaving his room and tied to his bed, and like there is the idea of the fact that it's like, man, this kid did live through a lot. Like becoming a killer is extreme, but it's I could see why he's mentally unstable.
Oh yeah.
I mean, down to the fact that when the police are hunting just any Santa in the first one, and they just gunned down the guy that like ended up being the janitor, like as he was getting
Right
ready to
in front of
shake
the
Ricky's
kids.
hand. Yeah. But then like the kids all bounce back miraculously well from that, because then they're all just like sitting around talking about Christmas again. And it's like, didn't all of these children just witness the police murder their janitor dressed as Santa Claus? Like this movie simultaneously like tells this, like shows this idea of the fact that children are able to handle traumatic experiences remarkably well, but then if they don't, they become killers. And so, but then just Ricky just rampaging through the streets, and just the color red and nuns and just anything that kind of rubs him the wrong way. I mean, it's 0 to 100 with this guy, and there's just enough story there to kind of get you through everything, but it wasn't terrible. Like it wasn't ever the type of thing where some of the kills notwithstanding, the story itself, I was always kind of like, I can kind of believe this. Like I could believe that this much trauma and this many horrible things happening to a child centered around Christmas could cause this, which was odd, because as it was progressing, I was like, I did not expect any sense of realism at any point.
And I don't think that you should. That is the right way to approach it.
Right.
It is schlock, but it is the right kind of schlock, I think. Like there's no reason for Billy to like just bust into the house of those two teenagers which are getting it on in the basement. Why is he going there? There is no reason.
True.
But I also don't care, because they were being naughty and needed to be punished, right?
And needed to be punished.
In his own sort of like Spidey sense, his Santa sense, it's like tingling there, and he's like, oh, naughty, and he's just like, I gotta make a beeline because someone took their tits out. That's kind of the sense that I got. He had some sort of radar, and I don't care. It doesn't make any sense, because to me, I mean, Billy, I think was. I hate to say the word nuance, but there was more nuance to the character than Ricky, because that implies that there was actually some acting that went into this. But there was, I guess, some dimension to Billy, whereas like Ricky was very flat. You know what? He was not flat. There was so much volume and body to Ricky, but it was nonsensical.
So much eyebrows to Ricky.
Oh my God!
Eyebrows, man.
He said that Freeman, what's his name? The name of the actor
who played Ricky?
Eric Freeman. Yeah, he said that he got no direction from Lee Harry, the guy who directed the movie. So I saw a thing where it was like, but all the actors involved kept like giving him tons of feedback about playing it different ways, and what he ended up with was this bizarre merging of all of the things everybody said. It's just like, I said the same thing when we did Blood Rage and we were talking about the twins' mother. No one behaves this way. Like not even a crazy person behaves this way. Like, who talks like this with their eyebrows all the time?
Oh, just
You know?
constantly like it became like a running thing as we were watching it. Like we were all trying to talk and like move our eyebrows as much as him. And I was like, it's so distracting trying to move my eyebrows this much. I don't know that I could deliver full lines.
You have to make an attempt to eyebrow that much. You know, oh, you're out of tape. Why the fuck deliver that? Like, yes, he's out of fucking tape. You hear the fucking tape clicking and clacking along the machine. I mean, it's so nonsensical, and this is what to me makes the movie work so much. is that so little about the story either. The story neither matters nor does it make sense, and that's
Correct.
really what gives us this like fantastic Christmas magic when we're watching it, right? Because I mean, Christmas doesn't make sense, right?
Fair.
Jolly fat guy finds a way down your chimney. I don't got a chimney. How does he get in? I don't know, but he's still here and he leaves gifts, right? So it doesn't make sense, and neither does this movie. All right,
very true.
It's very Christmas, very, very Christmas.
You know, it's some of like the some of the things in the story that either boggled my mind or just cracked me up outside the eyebrows. Like so during the flashbacks, we see the nun trying to force Billy to sit on Santa's lap, even though he's obviously, deep-seated trauma involving Santa Claus. And so he finally gets him on the lap and he decks Santa. I mean, he throws that hook and Santa like turns a flip. And I was like, man, that 10-year-old just knocked you the fuck out. It's like that trauma strength is real. They just and then she gets him a job where he has to be a Santa. It's like this kid had no chance. Just none. You know what? Honestly,
go ahead.
Mother Superior?
Yeah, she's the real villain. All right. Yes. By the time she gets her fucking head whacked off at the end of the movie, I'm fucking applauding Ricky because, like, goddamn, she is the real villain of this story.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what the hell? Speaking of the story, what the hell kind of stroke did this woman have that left her looking like a plague victim?
You've never had the plague stroke before?
Like I've seen people who've had strokes. This woman had like boiling pustules on her face, and they were like, "Oh, she retired because she had a stroke." And I was like, "That was a hell of a stroke."
Bitch was poisoned. That's what that looks like.
I think you froze on mine.
Oh, did I freeze? Am I back? You're frozen on mine now. That's interesting.
Okay, I think I'm back.
Okay, yes, you are back.
Okay.
Nice. No, I said she was definitely poisoned.
Maybe because
that's what poisoning looks like.
Yeah.
True enough. I don't know, but all I know is that she got her comeuppance. Every time I see it, I still get happy when that young nun goes in there and sees her head fall to the ground. I mean, it's what it reminds me of. And this I think we're old enough to remember this. You remember watching The Mummy in theaters?
Yes.
The first one with Brendan Fraser. When Benny finally dies at the end of the movie.
Yes.
That all the scarabs come and they he starts screaming.
Okay.
The whole audience erupted in applause, right? Because Benny is such a little piece of shit, right? That you were glad he was dead, right? That's how I feel every time Mother Superior dies.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, she definitely got what was coming to her. Like I said, it was there. The story was so odd, but like I said, it didn't matter that it was so odd, but just yes. Red triggers him and nuns trigger him, but like the rampage through the city with the security guard's gun, like through the suburbs, not even the city, like through the suburbs, like, yeah, sure. I'll give it to you. He's just rampaging through the suburbs, just, and if you can see our background here, just the whole garbage day thing, like that that's the type of thing that deserves to be a meme, because it did nothing. It did nothing to advance the story. It was solely a moment in time that needed to be perfectly preserved in the form of just always being around as a gif and a meme. Like, just like that guy that guy wasn't even wearing red or dressed like Santa. He was just taking out his trash.
and it makes no sense as like a line before the kill, you know?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. Garbage day, boom. You know, and you know what my favorite thing about that is it's not even the line. It's that the guy picks up the aluminum garbage can and tries to use it as a shield for the 357 round that's going to come barreling through, like if that's going to save him.
Well, you know, I mean, how many Westerns have we seen where a Bible in somebody's pocket saves them, or just a random coin? You know, you gotta hope that maybe there's something in that trash can that's going to stop a bullet. You know, how many times has a lucky silver dollar right over somebody's heart saved their lives? I get the logic. I see where this guy's going with it. It's metal. You know, there's a lot of stuff in there. I can forgive him for lifting up the trash can to try to save his own life.
Man, why did I have to wait to throw out all those Kevlar vests? I should have thrown them out this week. Oh,
so, you know, as far as story, you're right. Just none of it matters, right? It just serves to keep everything going forward, which, you know, every time we do a slasher, so often that's the case. There's not a lot that makes a lot of sense, but I will give them credit to the story in the fact that they did a lot to, like I said, build the trauma that these boys have. And not that it's justification, but it's at least there is some explanation there. Mm-hmm. You know, like your Jason Voorhees, you know, there's some explanation there. Your Michael Myers, not so much. You know, your Freddy, it's hit and miss, depending on which one you're watching.
Yeah.
You know, but there is some reasoning behind why they are the way they are. Now, Billy more so than Ricky. Ricky kind of took it to the next level. You know, his became about, you know, the guy taking out the trash wasn't doing anything naughty. You know, like a boss, what, twice in this, or once, the Santa basically rapes Ricky and Billy's mom, and then the one of the first, if not the first guy that Billy kills was in the process of beginning to rape that woman. And so it's like, okay, yeah, that's naughty. But then he turns around and kills the woman who was getting raped, and it's like, okay, maybe your naughty nice meter's a little skewed here, right? Like,
but she did come at him, right? And she was like,
she did smack him.
That's, yeah, you know, and also she was being, well, no, she was, let me not victim shame. Let me not go there. So
exactly. You know,
she didn't deserve to die. You know, he started to. I think that's where we start to realize there's an issue there, because why does he kill the store owner? Why does he kill the toy store owner? The friend, you know, the older lady,
just the other woman that worked there. Yeah, and like I said, so there's some skew to his meter, right? But yeah, then he just kind of miraculously shows up in the right place, where this couple is about to have, these teenagers are about to have sex, and it's like, okay, I see where in your eyes that's naughty, you know. So, and because he's looking through the keyhole, right, and he sees, and she's like, oh, that's terrible, they deserve to be punished. So he's like, okay, like that one makes sense. So it's kind of all over the place, you know, with where his naughty and nice is. And then, like I said, then Ricky's is just, but then Ricky's, there's no skew to that. It's like, oh, you're taking out your trash, not, or it's like, oh, you're being noisy in the movie theater. Look, kill that guy. Fuck that guy. Right? Like, yeah, no, that guy deserves to die. People should not act like that at movie theaters. I agree. Naughty. Take him out. But then it's like, okay, you're taking out your trash. That's good citizen stuff. So
I think a lot of it has to do with like this lack of restraint, where they had this like balled up in them from the very beginning, and as soon as you unleash that monster, there's it's like toothpaste, once the toothpaste is out of the bottle, there's no putting it back in.
Yeah, you can't
know?
you can't unsqueeze the tube.
Yeah. So it's to me, that's what it kind of felt like. Because when he sees his girlfriend's ex, what's his name? Was it
I don't
Chip?
I know
It was
I remember
Chip,
who you're
right? Chip.
yes, Chip.
Yeah, when he sees Chip and Chip's working on his beautiful Mustang, and Chip's being so like rude to him and rude to his girlfriend, right? That's killing is wrong, right?
Correct.
But you can say if anyone deserved it, Chip did,
Yes.
right? And then from there, it's like, okay, well, there's no stopping me now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's there's a blood rage quality to it there, right? Where it's like, okay, I understand what set you off, and now, yeah, you just can't reel it back in. So it was just, man, like you said, the story doesn't matter. The story doesn't matter, and it was just enough to get us to the fun parts. Which, like I said, when you look at the fact that it's 80 minutes long and 40 minutes of it is just the good parts of the first one, then all you're left with is 40 minutes. So all you really get are the good parts of the second one too. So in that aspect of the story, like I said, bold move to just spend the first half of the movie telling a different one, but I never saw the first one. So I got like a cool double, Silent Night, Deadly Night double feature out of this.
And I got to tell you, since I've seen this one, I've never gone back to watch the original. Never. Because I feel like I'm getting the best parts of it here, and I'm getting Ricky's story too. To me, this feels like the Zack Snyder cut, if you will.
There we go.
Right? This is the Silent Night, Deadly Night that we should have gotten when it was originally released. That's what this is. Parts 3, 4, they follow totally different characters. Neither Billy nor Ricky. Actually, I think it might be a cousin of theirs who's in it. But yeah, and actually, a really interesting side note, because of the fact that they're showing stuff from the original in this. One of the goddesses of horror actually appears in this, albeit like very briefly. Linnea Quigley, who is I know her most famously from Return of the Living Dead.
Right.
She shows up. She's the one that gets impaled on the on the
antlers.
Yeah, on the antler. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't even realize that was her. Like now, I just went over and looked at, and yeah, it's the chick from Graduation Day.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize that was her. But now I can place her, and yeah, okay, very cool.
She's trash in Return of the Living Dead. Now I always think of her as that, but it's always nice to see her in this too. And she's been in so many smaller budget horror movies. And every time I see her here, it's like, oh man, I pray at the altar of Linnea Quigley. So
yeah, it's so there's a lot to it. It's bizarre, right? Because surface level, there's not a lot to this story, but then there is, it's like it's pretty straightforward in the fact that it's like this guy's brother was a killer at Christmas time. Now he is, but then you get into it and you're like, well, yeah, but look at everything that happened to his brother, and then look at how that affected him, and look at how awful these nuns were. Like trauma is a very real thing. And,
it is, yeah.
And like when we did Hereditary, we were like, these people need to talk their shit out. Unfortunately, Ricky just waited too long to talk his shit out, man. Like Ricky should have been talking to somebody way before he reached this point. And Ricky was well beyond point of no return by the time he met with his 13th, psychiatrist or whatever. So man, it was so weird. Like there were times when I was watching it, and I was like, this story makes no sense. But then just a couple minutes later, and I was like, all right, I get it. like this, there's some story here to this. There's something tangible to what they're putting on film. So I was very hot and cold with this movie.
And part of what helps that, putting it on film is, I think, the acting, because this movie leans so deep into that camp territory, right? And no one is taking it seriously, or taking it way too seriously. I can't decide which one it is here, right?
Yeah, I think Ricky was going with car crash level of serious, which was odd, but yes.
The acting here is, in my opinion, and I mentioned this a little earlier, it's one of the things that keeps me coming back. And it's not because the acting is stellar. And usually when something keeps you coming back to a movie, it's either because it's really good or it's really bad, right? And I think in this respect, for me, the acting is so bad that it does that 180, and it's like, oh my god, this is so fucking great, right?
Yeah.
So how did you, and I don't want to know only about you, because you watched this with a group of people who understand this kind of movie, right? So what was the reaction at Shea DeBona when this movie was on?
So it was funny, kind of like the different, like you said, like everybody having their thing. One of the very first things my dad noticed, my dad was like, man, this Ricky is like a terrible smoker. Like that was like one of the very first things he said. He was like, he's really bad at smoking. And so, it's like, so, so that, but like my mom just couldn't stop laughing, like just at the acting, at just at the kills. All of us kind of stood in this camp of thinking that the actor who played Ricky just didn't, Eric Freeman just couldn't. He went way too serious with it, right? Like he was on board to make this super serious, scary slasher, and so he took the ridiculous situations that he was put in, and the lines that he had to deliver, and we all kind of agreed that it was just like he decided he was going to just act the shit out of this. Like he was going to be Michael Caine in Muppet Christmas Carol, right? Like he was going to be the guy that people look back at this movie and were like, all right, sure, it's bad, but look at the amazing performance that Eric Freeman gave us. So it was like,
I could probably agree with that.
Yeah. And so, everybody else just kind of, they did what they were supposed to do. The Mother Superior did her part in just being awful. The random and various teenagers, they were horny. Good. They acted horny perfectly. Knocked it out of the park. It was just my favorite was the psychiatrist, who seemed to match Ricky's energy really, really well.
Yes,
like he was so perfectly in tune with whatever the direction that Ricky decided he was going, and he just gave it right back to him. Like there was a really good give and take between Ricky and the psychiatrist. For as ridiculous as the things that they were saying to each other were, he did this perfect job of absorbing the overacting that Ricky was doing, and then kind of giving it back in a subtle, understated way. And so that was really cool to me. Like that guy, and his unfortunate end that he met by being strangled by, tape. But like he did such a good job of like I said, just he mirrored what Ricky was doing so well that I was disappointed when he died. I knew he was gonna die because I knew Ricky had to go on a rampage outside of this. He couldn't just continue to rehash the stories of Billy. We saw what happened to him. And so I knew that the guy was gonna die and Ricky was gonna get out. But man, I was like, I almost wish like this guy would have just jumped in a car with Ricky and like driven him around to the kills and like experienced them or something, because he was so good with
They
them.
would have had their own Thelma and Louise style.
Yeah, like it could have been
ending
this
out there.
really
Yeah.
weird buddy cop thing, where it's like, I know I should stop you, but also I gotta let you be you, right? I'm here to listen. I'm here to listen. I need you to tell me.
This is catharsis, Ricky.
Yes. Like in my head, I kind of kept waiting for that. Like, so now he's gonna take Ricky out and let him hash all this shit out with the people of their town. Like, so
that guy to me is I always find it fascinating that he's actually the one that sets the tone for the movie, because he's the very first actor that speaks.
Yeah.
And he has,
which speaking of acting, like the first when it's like 5 minutes in before anybody says anything, it's just that one orderly that never actually says anything. It's just always kind of staring menacingly.
And he gives Ricky that like the finger though.
And he goes, and like when the first time he gets loud, Jay pops in the door, he's like, yeah.
I told you to give us, what is it he said? I told you to leave us alone or something like that.
Yes,
there's
like
the way that he plays off of that orderly is like that sets the tone for the movie. You know what you're getting into at that point. That's the point where you stand up and say, I'm leaving, or you settle in and you dig deep into that bucket of popcorn and you say, I'm going along for this ride.
Right. Yeah, and like it was funny because I went and I looked into the guy. His name is James Newman, short IMDb. Like the guy didn't do a ton of movies. It's funny, for as much as I enjoyed him, like he was in movies I've seen, like Flags of Our Fathers and Legally and stuff like that. But I couldn't place him in any of those things. So I was like trying to find pictures of him in those different movies, because I was like, I'm really into what this guy did with this movie. And so he was great, and just all the various and sundry teenagers, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They were either sexy or annoying, or they played their parts well. So I'll give them that. The acting in this, when we did those Ari Aster movies, we talked about how amazing this director was to get these performances out of people, because he had a vision. He knew what he wanted. It's pretty obvious here that this movie was a cash grab. And so there was no vision, there was no directing. I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Play it just like that. You nailed it. Let's go. Like I'm guessing most of the stuff was done in one take, and they were just like, oh, yep, got it.
So my understanding of this was that the director actually did have an idea about what he wanted to do with this. And when the studio tapped him to say, hey, we want you to direct this movie, he had a pitch ready. And he walked in and they said, you got no budget. I think they gave
$250,000.
Yeah, they're like, you've got $250,000, and he said, I can't make a movie for that. They said, well, you got to figure it out, and you're contractually obligated to at this point. So, so that's where this whole idea of kind of reusing the footage, goes to, and TV shows did this all the time, where they would reuse old episodes, and they would cut them up and edit them with new material. The Star Trek famously did this with the original pilot that they had shot without William Shatner. So
right.
This is a classic, cost saving mentality. Is, well, let's use what we already have and then add only what we need. And so the story of Ricky was severely truncated, and what we got was this rehash of it. I mean, to me, it ends up making the first one irrelevant almost entirely. Yes. Which, for better or for worse, that's that. But it does give us this this sense of, okay, well, we have no budget for actors, and so we're basically like scouring like students, you know,
just cast and crew.
people who are going to work for peanuts. They just want a film credit, and at this point, Silent Night, Deadly Night's a hit, and they can be in the sequel to that. So I would work for that, you know, because maybe that's what's going to give me my big break. You know, Linnea Quigley was in that first one, you know, and she kind of became famous-ish. So, you know, I mean, she's much more famous than I am. You know, no one knows my name.
Right, yeah.
So, and a lot of people seem to know Eric Freeman, you know, so I guess that worked out for him.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's,
although I think this was his last movie, wasn't it?
You know, that was one. Let's pull right here while we'll do it live. Yeah, when we're looking here, he made various appearances on television shows after this, but that was pretty much it for him for movies. Says he showed up on several episodes of In Living Color.
Ah, yes.
So good for him. You know, there weren't many white people on In Living Color. So if Eric Freeman made it to multiple episodes, good for him.
Oh, wow. Look at this. There was apparently in 2018 a short film called Ricky Today, The Caldwell Interview.
Okay.
A 2018 interview with infamous spree killer Ricky Caldwell. Oh, I've got to watch this. I didn't even know this existed. Where can I find this? And how much do I have to pay? Because I'm willing to like sign over my whole bank account right now.
Oh, man. So here you go. Here's another one. In 2016, Eric Freeman appeared in a TV movie called A Husband for Christmas, which also featured the actor who played Billy in Silent Night, Deadly Night as his brother.
That's amazing.
As his brother. It says, yeah, also featured Robert Brian Wilson, who played his brother Billy in Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. They were both in a TV movie called A Husband for Christmas. They brought them both back for like a Hallmark style Christmas movie, and that deserves some sort of award.
That
directorial choice. That's spectacular.
So someone knew what they were doing.
The Mother Superior, also, just while we're talking acting, she did an amazing job of making you hate her, and you're right, cheering when she died at the end.
Yeah,
it's like I watched this man kill a nun, and I was here for it.
Yeah,
it's so. I guess I guess
did
the
have
actors
that
all did
sort
what they
of
were
like
supposed to do.
She had that distinguished, like classic Hollywood accent that she would use.
Yes.
Which I always like as a lover of old movies, right? Like I grew up watching Humphrey Bogart and James Cagney movies with my grandfather, right? So like that old school Hollywood speech, you didn't find a lot in the 1980s anymore, right? Because a lot of those guys were either dead or retired, and they weren't working anymore. And she's certainly elderly when she's making this movie. So she probably was making movies, not maybe in the time of Bogey and Cagney, but certainly in the 50s. And that's interesting. Let me look that up now, because now I want to know.
So everybody, this is a situation where I think everybody did the most with what they were given. I feel like with what they had in front of them as a script and as an idea, I feel like everybody played the part, and like I said, it's just this, they really, what it's always going to boil down to, and what we're always going to talk about, and what's always going to be what catches your eye is just Ricky just running with this thing, man. Like he was so that laugh, that weird, like Joker-esque laugh that Ricky had that didn't make a damn bit of sense,
because he stops it dead in its tracks, and then his face is deadpan. It is really creepy.
Yeah, like it didn't make any sense, but also it fit for what he was doing. Like it was just, it's so weird to look at this movie as a whole and to talk, it's like nobody's looking at this and being like, it's well acted. Right.
No.
But then you look at it and you're like, but maybe they all did exactly what they were supposed to do for this movie. Like that's always the interesting perspective that this podcast gives me when I watch these movies. When we did Demon Knight and we talked about how, nobody did a great job in Demon Knight, but also, well, Billy Zane did a great job, but nobody else did a great job in Demon Knight. But maybe they all just did exactly what they needed to do. There comes a moment where if you're handed the script for Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, and you deliver a Patrick Stewart in Macbeth level of performance, then that's bad. Then that doesn't make sense. And that's such a weird thing to stop and think about. But I guess the mark of a good actor is being right for the role. There's a moment where you're like, this is a bad movie. I'm supposed to act badly. And so maybe it doesn't necessarily. Now, granted, you can go look at the wiki for this, and not many of the names in this are blue links because
that's always an indication that this is really low budget.
Yeah, these people didn't go on to do great things. This isn't the type of thing where you look back on it and you're like, hey,
or maybe they did, but not in film. Maybe in carpentry and
yeah, exactly. Work. Maybe they started a business knitting, cozies for teapots. I don't know, but they didn't go on.
That sounds interesting.
Somebody's got to do it. But they didn't go on to do a ton of movies. And so, but you really look at it as a whole and you go, bad movies need bad acting. That's what makes them cross that line. That's when you go from bad to so bad it's good. That was, with Sleepaway Camp, everybody just did so well with what they were given that you enjoy watching it. Now, Sleepaway Camp is a much better movie than this, but I'm just saying, but script wise, the lines delivered, they delivered what they were given, and they did it in the best way they could without it becoming the type of thing where you go, you're trying too hard. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what we got here. Maybe that's why there is a decent amount of rewatchability in this because it's fun.
Yeah, I kind of agree, and that's a really good point that I don't know that I've ever considered. And this is something I heard long ago, like it would be ridiculous to show up to, like if I was applying to be, say, I don't know, a waiter, right? And this is actually something I've done, right? I waited tables at Chili's when my wife and I first got married, right? I showed up in a polo shirt and slacks, right?
Right.
Because that's more or less the attire of what you're going to wear, right? Someone showed up in a suit, and I thought, well, that's kind of ridiculous, because you're dressed so much nicer than what your position here is requiring of you. Not even the manager of this restaurant is wearing a suit. Now if you were going to like some really fancy steakhouse, maybe that would be the case,
right?
So this idea that like your acting has to match the material, I think there's something to that.
Yeah, and so
I can't believe I've never considered that.
Yeah, like it's one of those things. Like I said, you can't, when you look at great acting performances, we always fall back on the fact that they were given great material to work with. So the idea of the fact that you've got, you play the hand you're given. If what you're given is a ridiculous script, then you act ridiculously. And like I said, it doesn't seem like it worked out for many of them. But it
unfortunately, I mean, who knows? Maybe with the right material, they could have done something.
Yeah.
But also to go back to the woman who played Mother Superior, in the original film. It was a different actress in the second one. She actually she's got credits that go back to 1950. So
Yeah, I'm
that
seeing that
explains
now.
her old Hollywood accent.
Yes, it really. Yeah. But I mean, like she, like her television credits are insane. X Files, Murder She Wrote, Deep Space Nine,
Yeah.
Friends, Magnum PI, Malcolm in the Middle. Like she
was on the original
stayed working.
Superman.
Yeah,
Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Good stuff here.
I mean, she died in 08. It looks like she worked right up until she died.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah, so I mean, she was.
She
out
didn't
there
let
doing
this
the
little
damn
blip
thing.
on her on her show sheet do anything. Oh, she was on Heart to Heart. Look at that.
So speaking of Mother Superior, we've gone back multiple times to the fact that there is a great amount of joy to be had in watching her killed, which is not something that the horror fan is unfamiliar with.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're looking 70s, 80s slasher, we got to go back to that classic category of boobs and blood, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're looking at I want to know about what you think about the creativity of the kills, and we're looking at two movies here, really,
Yeah.
right? So so creativity of the kills, use of the boobs, do they figure in a way that matters? What did you think about just the boobs and blood of this movie, man?
So I do think that the sex in this movie is gratuitous.
It is.
Yeah, it's not like Blood Rage, where I thought that it was used sparingly. Although when it was used, it was extended shots of nudity, which is odd for that time. But I did think, and I've always thought watching this movie, I was like, I don't know that we need that much because there's no context to it, because they very easily could have been making out on that billiards table with their clothes on, and it doesn't change a damn thing about the movie. Now I will say that the Santa attack on Billy and Ricky's mom, where he rips the shirt, I mean, it shows some of the aggression that's there. Same thing as the sexual assault later, in the toy store. I think because it's an assault, it's not being glorified. It's more of a
correct.
And Billy shows that, with the fact that he kills the guy, So as far as like the boobs aspect of blood and boobs, there's a lot, but I don't think it's used well. Now, as far as the blood goes,
didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, as far as the blood goes, now the kills, they're quite good, I think, and quite creative. You don't get a lot of axe kills in slashers. They're usually knives or machetes, the occasional pitchfork, which is always interesting, right? But an axe is always nice, right?
I agree. There's something about the idea of an axe that always makes me wonder why it's not more of a horror movie trope. Because there's something about the brutality of an axe, just because of because anytime you're using an axe, it's such a show of strength and violence.
Yeah,
right.
Is.
Like you can use a machete for just kind of clearing out stuff, or a pitchfork, for what it's actually for, just moving hay or something like that. But there is no opportunity when you're using an axe when it's not a display of brute force. So I'm always kind of floored by the fact that the axe is an underused horror movie weapon.
Yeah, I agree. Because the axe is only ever used to split large, really, big objects in half. I believe it or not, because it's used so infrequently in horror, my go-to for an axe in movies is Commando, the Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay,
movie,
yeah.
Where he's splitting that gigantic trunk of a tree, at the beginning of the movie, and then later on in the film, if you've ever seen the director's cut, there's definitely some great gore after he's stormed the island, where he just takes an axe and right up in some guy's gonads, and it is glorious, absolutely glorious. I get the phantom pain every time I watch that. But yeah, I mean, the axe is brutal, so to see Billy using that axe over and over again is really great. But then also we get those kills like the antler, the deer antler in the parlor of that house. That's a really awesome kill, and that's not something that you see very often, and also her boyfriend is the absolute fucking we lost Debona. Let's see if he's coming back here. Are you out? I'm gonna kick out Debona, see if he comes back. So while we're waiting for Debona to come back, that boyfriend, he sits and absolutely does nothing while he is hearing his girlfriend die, right? And then he comes up, and it's got to be at least 5 minutes. 5 minutes that's going on between him and the time she leaves and the time he comes back. So Debono just got back to me and says his internet went out, so that's awful. So we'll call it now, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm asking him for his rating, and I'll give my rating. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that for myself. Oh, he's back.
Hey, sorry.
Hey.
Internet issues. The beauty of doing everything online.
So I was just gonna cut it short and go right to the ratings, but why don't you give me your take on Blood and Boobs?
So I liked the kills in this movie. It's even down to the garbage day kill. There's a beauty in the simplicity of that. And so often, like a slasher flick revolves around how elaborate can we be while killing somebody. There was something fun about the fact that it's like, this guy's a gun and he's just shooting people. Like there was something fun to that. Hands down though, like the umbrella.
That's a great kill.
The umbrella is so good, and it's such a long shot on just like the bloody spinning umbrella afterwards.
It's actually kind of artistic.
Yeah. Like that was a moment where I saw some director vision. I saw something he had in his head come through. The jumper cable kill.
That was really cool. I don't think that there was enough money behind it to make it truly effective.
Yeah.
But fuck, that was a really cool idea.
There were some fun ideas here. There was a brutal showing of strength and not just like hanging somebody with lights, but then like picking up a grown adult with one hand by the Christmas lights. The blood, the kills in this movie are where it shines. Like you can tell that's where they had some fun. And that's what's gonna keep you coming back to this movie. Is they did a good job of being creative with the kills. I absolutely agree with you that I think that a lot of the nudity was gratuitous and didn't add to the story at all. Now this movie, for when it came out, it's before it was full, before it was just like a trope. But you can watch an older one like this where a sexual assault is a plot point, and now at 2021 it's like, okay, we need to move past that. But you look at all things through the lens of when they were made, and at the time that wasn't necessarily just, it hadn't become trope and it hadn't become a plot point. So yes, it happened twice in this movie, but I will give them credit for the fact that while what we witnessed was about to be assaults, they didn't try to turn our stomachs by taking that too far. So I will give them credit for that. I do appreciate that in modern horror, we've moved past the idea of somebody needing to get raped to make a movie scary. But for when this was made, they towed that line very, very well. As you know, I guess as well as you can when you're including an assault in a movie is strictly a plot point.
Yeah.
And so but yeah, you're right. Like just to immediately like the keyhole thing, like we could have gotten away with him looking through the keyhole. They could have made it obvious to us that there were people on the other side of that keyhole having sex without, the nudity that we got out of it. So there is an unnecessary level of boobs in this movie, and it's funny because like I said, watched this movie with my mom and dad, and it's funny to me to step back and look at that and think of people who would be like uncomfortable watching a movie that has so many tits in it, like with their parents, but like because of the fact that we all knew exactly what we were in for, like there was never an uncomfortable, like I would be far more uncomfortable watching something where somebody was having sex in a movie where there was no nudity, but that it was like vital to the plot and it was actually some sort of like sensual sex scene. That is the type of thing that I would be uncomfortable, being in the room with my parents for. But something like this, it's like, it's a slasher. Yeah, there's boobs. We're all ready for this. Like, let's go. Yeah. And so you're talking about, I watched it with my parents. Like, it was funny because I had that thought, I don't know, somewhere around the third or fourth boob. It's like there
just third or fourth boob or third or fourth pair?
Third or fourth actual boob, sure. Okay. Just like the second time boobs show up. I have this moment where I'm like, there are probably people who would be really uncomfortable watching a movie, where there are boobs in it with their parents, but we all knew what we were in for, and we're enjoying this and how funny it is in there. But this movie absolutely is a situation where some of the nudity does take away from the movie, like just because it's unnecessary. But the credit where credit's due, there were some creative kills in this. There was some fun to be had in that. Like I said, but the umbrella and the jumper cables were my favorite. It's something I forgot to mention earlier, and I don't know. I guess it kind of fit in maybe earlier, but now just while we're talking about kills. Sometimes when you're watching these schlocky films and you're so on board and there's going to be some creative kills, there's going to be some boobs, you're all of that. Sometimes there's something that's so over the top ridiculous that your brain can't even comprehend. And for me in this movie, it was the fact that the nun retired and went on to live in apartment 666. And
if she's not the fucking devil, I don't know what.
And I get it, and I understand that it's just like, hey, that's funny. It's a little, but yeah, it's a little on the nose, right? That was like there was a moment where we actually had to like pause the movie and do like what did we miss in the past 30 seconds, because everyone in the room was laughing so hard when he opened that door. By the time he's actually chasing this invalid, stroke, plague-ridden woman around her apartment, and she's giving him hell too.
She really is, yeah.
For
she's
a
feisty old lady.
Yeah, for everybody that he effortlessly killed, Mother Superior gave him a run for his money. But we had to pause. Well,
she's got God on her side.
That must be what it is.
Yeah,
she's just. But there was a moment where we literally had to pause, and it was just like everybody wiping tears away from our eyes, because that was just so on the nose ridiculous that it was like that was honestly probably the hardest that we laughed and we laughed plenty throughout the thing, but that was the hardest that we laughed, because you're right, it's just too on the nose.
Yeah.
But again, it was something they had fun doing, so I'm not going to take away from them for it. But it was a bit much.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm with you there.
So as we look at everything, we've discussed the kills. We've been through the little bit of story that we were given here, or the two stories that honestly, I keep saying a little bit of story, but we were given two stories here. We got a double feature out of it. It's time to rate this movie. And so there, we rate every movie against itself, and we like to come up with something unique. And honestly, the artistic thing, the one that sticks with me, is the birth of the Umbrella Corporation. I really want to know. I really want to know if this is where the logo came. I mean, granted, a red and yellow, a red and white umbrella is not unfamiliar, but man, that did seem like the Umbrella Corporation logo. But that was the artsy moment, that blood-soaked umbrella. So out of 5 blood-soaked umbrellas, what do you give Silent Night, Deadly Night to?
So here's the thing. In my heart, this is a 5, but I can't give this a 5, because it isn't. It's not a 5. It's not a 5. There's no way that this is a 5. But I adore this movie. This is one of those movies that I love watching. Like I could watch this. I could watch this dead sober. I could watch this drunk off my ass. I can watch this high as a kite. It doesn't matter how I watch this movie. I'm going to enjoy it, and I can watch it by myself, preferably with a group, and it is going to be fantastic. I can't wait to watch this movie with a group again, because due to COVID, I haven't seen this movie in a group in quite some time.
Right.
So I can't wait to watch this again with a group. That said, it's not a good movie, and I know this, right? It's kind of like that perfect pair of sneakers that you have,
right?
Where you absolutely love those shoes and you put them on all the goddamn time. But that when you got to dress up a little bit, but you're not quite wearing dress shoes, you can't put on those sneakers.
Correct.
That's like my pair of PF Flyers. They are my favorite shoes, but I can't fucking wear them when I'm putting on like a button-up shirt, because I'll look ridiculous because they're beat to hell and back.
Right.
So it's no longer a good shoe. That's this movie. This movie is no longer a good shoe. This movie is fucking garbage. It is garbage day.
It is garbage day.
But my love for it persists. So I'm going to go ahead, and because of my love for this movie, because of the absolute rewatchability, like this is a movie where like within 5 minutes, I am watching this movie again at some point. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 4.
Okay. Fair enough. So this was my first time seeing it, and there's definitely a need for me to rewatch this with a new group, and that is going to raise what I'm going to give it, because I desperately want to have a Christmas party, and as it starts to wind down and like the festivities are over, and just like the casual acquaintances leave and you're down to just your core friends, and everybody's still just drinking, like I really look forward to that moment where I'm like, guys, I've got it. Like I've got what we've got to, I know what we've got to watch. Like we're all at the right level for this. We can have some fun with this. That part of it is giving it some weight in the rating that I'm going to give it here. The kills were creative and fun. And while, on the one hand, they are just recycled, to me, they weren't, because I didn't see Silent Night, Deadly Night. So I'm considering all of that to just be in this movie. I got some creative kills. I got some fun. I did get to watch this with a group and enjoy it and laugh. But you're right. It's not a good movie. It's not a good movie, but it's fun. And so I'm gonna let this sit solidly at a 3.
Okay.
Because of the fact that I know that next year I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna have a Christmas party, and then when the people that when the people that won't be a part of it kind of trickle out, and I get down to that, everybody's got that core group of friends where when you have a party, you invite a lot of people. But then people who were just invited leave. But then that those friends that are family, when they're still there, that's when I'm going to fire this up again. And I'm going to enjoy watching it with them while they see it for the first time. And so I'm gonna let it sit right at a 3. I'm gonna let it because it's awfully good, and so I'll give it that.
And that's, I think, where it should be for you, and over the next couple of years, it's going to grow on you like a fungus.
I am so sure it will.
And you're going to look forward to the Christmas season, not just so that you watch, bona fide Christmas classics like It's a Wonderful Life, like White Christmas.
Man, I just watched White Christmas yesterday. I love that movie.
Oh, it's so good. I love that movie. That's one I put on every year. Like Christmas Vacation.
Yes.
A more modern, it's not modern, but a more modern Christmas classic. You're gonna start thinking like, oh fuck, can I watch it yet? Is it too early to watch it?
You're absolutely right. I am.
I always wait till after Thanksgiving to put it on because there is blood rage to watch. But and I think that over the next couple of years, it will kind of creep up there to that 3.5 for you.
I don't doubt it, because the other thing is I can see a year from now watching this with a new group of people and finding joy in somebody else finding something that maybe I didn't think was as funny this go through, and finding joy in them finding what they like about it. So I don't doubt for a second that this is going to creep on up there. But yeah, I'm going to let it sit right at that 3 for now.
So there it is. Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 is a 3.5 here at Shiver, a horror movie podcast. So we thank you for watching.
Yes, absolutely.
If you've enjoyed this, please make sure that you check out the other Geek Bro Network podcasts like Mount Geekmore, which both Daniel DeBona and myself are a part of, where we argue, debate, and discuss the top 4 of a geek subject of that week. Look out for What's Up, Bro, which is currently on right now.
Yeah, so, we actively compete against them on Wednesdays. But if you've got to pick one to watch live, then you just pick up the other one. You can find us on Spotify and iHeartRadio and all of that.
There you go. Yeah. There's also Seasons. There is A Dose of Ellie. There's Comedy Fitness. There's Better Let Me Tell You.
Crimacopia
and Kickflix.
Yes.
Kickflix. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, if you want to find all of this, you can head to geekbro.net. You can find us at shiverpod.com. You can that'll take you to our specific spot of that. Or if you're looking for Shiver things specifically on YouTube and Facebook and all of that, it's all /shiverpod. We're on Instagram. We try to give you a little bit of heads up about what movie we're going to watch. So if you haven't seen it and you want to watch, you can get a chance. We are currently, starting to line up what's going to be what movies are going to be happening in the new year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we'll probably take maybe a week or two off for the holidays, and then we'll come back fresh for the new year, and we'll hit you up with
trying to get Dave to watch that new Candyman.
Oh yes, and you know what? Maybe I'll do that tomorrow.
It's good.
There we go. Yeah.
There's your Shiver preview of when we do our new Candyman episode. It's good.
Yeah. Oh boy. I can't wait. So on behalf of all of us here on Shiver, fright you very much.